Hello and welcome to Psychology of Sales. In this session, we're going to be talking about how to sell. Because before we even get to the product, the number one thing that needs to happen is you have to understand how to sell a product. And the way that we teach it here is the first class is always Psychology of Sales. See, Psychology of Sales is great. I love it. It's my favorite topic when it comes to sales. We have two different brains in our head. We've got our conscious mind, and then on the other hand, we have our subconscious mind. What you're going to learn today is you're going to learn how to speak to an individual's subconscious mind. Because a lot of salespeople think that you have to speak to someone's conscious to sell a product, when really the most effective sellers sell to the subconscious. See, when you sell to the subconscious, the customer is going to want the product. In fact, they're going to need the product. And you don't have to sell it to them. They're going to sell it to themselves. Let me give you a couple of examples of a few companies that utilize Psychology of Sales. McDonald's is a really big one. You know, McDonald's has the golden arches, and then they've got the red McDonald's hamburgers. Well, if you think of the three largest fast food chains in the nation, you've got McDonald's, red and yellow. You've got Burger King, red and yellow. Wendy's, red and yellow are the primary colors in the top three's signage. Well, do you know what the color yellow does? Google it. The color yellow actually sends off an endorphin in your brain that makes you feel hungry. It tells your body that you need to eat. Isn't that crazy? And then the color red actually makes you feel impulsive. So when you see that big golden arch with the McDonald's hamburgers on it from the highway, you might notice they do that for people to pull off. They do that to capitalize on, again, in sales, we have something called the numbers game. That a certain percentage of people are going to simply pull off, and they're not going to know why. They're not going to realize it because, again, remember, it's speaking to the subconscious. And it tells that person that, oh, I need to pull off the highway and get something to eat right now. Make sense? Let me give you another example. Walmart. Walmart is a huge company and a big proponent of Psychology of Sales. What's the number one item sold in a grocery store? Think about that for a moment. Did you come up with it yet? It's milk. And where is that milk located? Think about that. That milk is located all the way in the back of the store. Now, most people say, well, common sense would dictate if it's the number one item sold in a grocery store, you put it in the front so that everybody can come pick it up and leave out the door and have everything that they need, right? No. They want you to walk past all those aisles where they have all these different companies selling different brands. And all these brands have maybe hired their own environmental psychologists to actually do research on their brand and find out what colors they need to use, right? Maybe think of a certain logo that would work, right? All to speak to your subconscious. I'm going to prove that it works. Let me tell you another thing that Walmart does. If you ever pay very, very, very close attention, the music in Walmart, do you notice? Every single song is played at the same pace. And what happens when every song is played at the same pace? I'm going to tell you what happens. It makes you feel like walking. That's right. So not only is the number one item in the grocery store all the way in the back of the store, but they play every song at the same pace so that you actually feel like walking. So if you're in a grocery store and you feel like walking, what do you think you're going to do? That's right, you're going to shop. Let's prove that this works. How many of you out there go to Walmart planning on only spending a few dollars, only maybe going and grabbing a gallon of milk or some bread, and end up spending $50 to $100? I know I do. It happens about every time. I know all this stuff and it still works. Now, did Walmart hold a gun in my head and say, oh, you have to buy this stuff? Absolutely not. Of my sound mind, I made a decision that I need these things, that I want these things. And I put them in my grocery basket, I take them to the register, and I buy them. No problem. Walmart profits off of Psychology of Sales. And again, Psychology of Sales is very, very powerful. So let's talk about all the different techniques when it relates to Psychology of Sales. The number one technique in Psychology of Sales is energy. And energy is transferable. I want you to take a moment to consider this so far. Imagine if I was standing, doing my presentation, leaning up against the wall, very still. My voice was very low. I had a monotone in my voice. And everything that I've talked about so far, I talked about it just like this. I talked about Walmart. I talked about McDonald's, how they use the different colors. Is it happening? Are you getting sleepy yet? Are you getting tired? Anybody ever gone to sleep in class? That's exactly what happens. Did the teacher make you go to sleep? No, all that teacher did was subconsciously speak to your subconscious and tell you to go to sleep. You wanted to go to sleep. In fact, you needed to go to sleep because how boring it was, because how much energy was taken from the room by that teacher standing just like this, very still and talking in a monotone. We want to have a very high energy when it comes to sales. We want to talk and project our voice. We want to let people know that we're here. In fact, do you notice I move my hands a lot? I do it on purpose. See, motion creates emotion. See, it's even scientific. If you really think about it, energy never dissipates. It can actually only go from one place to another. Energy never disappears. So think about that for a second. Do you want to have a positive energy or a negative energy? What energy do you want to transfer to your customer? And I want you to think about this too. Someone's energy always wins. When you're with a customer, when you're on a sit, and that customer has a negative energy, that negative energy can either overpower your positive energy or your positive energy can overpower their negative energy. It all depends on whose energy is at a higher frequency. Make sense? Psychology of sales tip number 2, building rapport. See, what do you think of when you think of building rapport? Well, I'll tell you what I think of. I think of making a friend. I think of breaking the ice, right? Establishing a relationship. See, it's one thing when you go to a customer and only thing that you talk is business. It's another thing when you go to a customer and perhaps you talk about their dog. You talk about your family and their family. You talk about maybe some vacation spots that you've gone to. Maybe you talk about your favorite sports team or your favorite sport. In fact, I want to talk about their favorite sports team or their favorite sport. You see, when you build rapport with somebody, you break the ice. You bring down that barrier that someone has when they first meet you. You want to make someone feel comfortable with you. And the more you talk about things that someone cares about, guess what? The more comfortable they'll feel with you, right? You're trustworthy, so you want your customer to trust you. So you have to do the responsible thing and make sure you're always giving your customer accurate information. Because once learning this power of persuasion, with great power comes great responsibility. Psychology of sales tip number 3, Jones effect. What is Jones effect? Really think about it. Well, I'm sure you've heard this before. Keeping with the Joneses, ever heard that one? I'm going to even ask you, I'm going to pose the question to you. What kind of car would you rather drive? If I told you I've got a Hyundai here for you, or I told you that I have maybe an Acura here for you, which one would you choose? Okay. Well, think about this one. I'm going to give an even more dramatic example. I've got a Honda over here. You can have this Honda. And remember, money's no object, right? But you can have this Honda or you can have this Mercedes-Benz. Which one do you want? Right? Oh, you want the Mercedes? Oh, I thought so. Well, that's nothing other than what's been programmed in you. And it's not because the Mercedes-Benz is necessarily any nicer than the Hyundai or the Honda. All it is it's been ingrained in your subconscious that you have to have a certain status to drive that vehicle. That you've told yourself that you'll feel good driving that vehicle versus the other vehicle. When really both vehicles do the same thing. The purpose of a car is to take you from point A to point B, right? For you ladies out here, I've got a real good one for you. If I told you that I've got a Kmart purse over here, and this Kmart purse was actually made by the same sweatshop in China that this Louis Vuitton purse was made in, right? Which purse do you want? Now again, money's no object, but which purse are you going to choose? Oh, you're going to choose the Louis Vuitton. Oh, I thought so, right? Because that Louis Vuitton has a certain status. Let me tell you what it really is. See, a lot of branding, if you notice, they use models, actresses, singers, right? Why? Because they're popular. When your subconscious sees those individuals with a particular Louis Vuitton purse or a Louis Vuitton shoe or Jay-Z driving a certain car or maybe LeBron James driving a Kia, now it's okay to drive a Kia, right? It's all Jones effect. It's all smoke and mirrors. So understanding that this is natural human behavior, how can we utilize this in our business? Well, There's a few ways to do it. Jones Effect has 3 components. Component number 1 is exclusivity. When you feel like something is exclusive, you take pride in it. And in fact, it may not matter what the price is, because if you think about it, I bet you that you spent more money on something that you could have spent less money on, but you spent more money on it because you liked it, because you felt like you needed it. Maybe it is a Louis Vuitton bag, or maybe a Michael Kors bag, right? Or maybe for a guy, maybe it's a particular car. When, again, every car gets you from point A to point B. Well, that's what we do with our products. We want to make that customer feel like this product is so exclusive, that this product is so on the cutting edge that they'll want it, that they'll need it. See, people naturally gravitate to what's new, whatever's in. So if you make your customer feel like your product is what's new, your product is what's in, they're going to naturally gravitate to it. And again, you don't have to sell it. Jones Effect component number 2, feeling left out. See, when you feel left out of something, you really want to be included. Let's prove this. I want you to take your mind back and think of yourself in high school. Maybe you played a sport, or maybe you were on a cheerleading squad, or maybe you're on a chess club. I don't know. Whatever it is, I want you to imagine to yourself that every year, whatever club or team or organization that you were a part of actually did a big party, right? Now, think in your mind, you actually didn't want to go to the party this year. You had a date, or you're going out of town, or you just simply didn't feel up to going. But you find out that every single person got an invite but you. How do you feel now? I bet now you want to crash the party. See, we do the same thing when we sell our products. If you make your customer feel like everybody else is moving along with the trend, is getting that new product or getting that new service, then guess what? They're going to want to feel included, just like you wanted to feel included in that example. That's how that part of the component works. Component number 3, perception of success. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Dateline 2020 actually did a study a long time ago. You know, they do social experiments from time to time. And in this particular social experiment, they were actually at a gas station. And they had a guy that was dressed up, and they dressed him up and put makeup on him, and they made him look like a homeless guy. And they actually sent him around the gas station, and he worked that gas station, and they filmed for about 6 hours. They got about 6 hours of footage that they cut up. During this time, the guy's going around asking people for money, saying he's hungry, he needs something to eat. Can someone spare $1 or spare some change? Well, in about 6 hours, he made about $50. That's how much money that people gave him. And during and in between this happening, they would cut the camera over to the person that maybe gave him some money and said, why did you give it to him? Why didn't you give it to them? And you know, people said, oh, he looked like he was in need. I had some extra money. I thought I'd help him out. I thought I'd bless him. And then on the other hand, you had people say, I don't know what he'd do with the money. He might have bought drugs. He might have done something crazy with the money. I don't know. And then they did this. They actually brought a guy in a Mercedes-Benz, suited up, very clean cut guy. And he pulled up to the gas station, and he got out of the car. And when he got out of the car, he's kind of pacing back and forth and kind of looking just a little bit frantic, to where he starts to pick up some people's attention. And in doing so, he starts grabbing people's attention and saying, hey, can you help me? You know, I just got mugged. They stole my wallet. I don't have anything. I'm about to run out of gas. I've got about 250 more miles to go, and I'm starving. Can you help me with something? 20, 10, 5, 20, 10, 5. They cut the cameras off after about 2 hours of footage, because in about 2 hours, he made about $200. Wow. I wonder why everybody gave the guy that looked more successful more money than the guy that maybe looked a little homeless. Ever heard the terminology? You got to fake it till you make it? Well, there's a little bit of something to that. All it really is people want to support something that they notice is successful. If people feel like something is successful or someone is successful, they want to naturally be a part of that success. And if them buying your product makes them feel a part of that success, then so be it. I'm going to use an example of 2 opening pitches. And I want you to tell me which one has perception of success included in it, to where that customer may want to listen to what I'm saying. And I'm going to use an example of us actually marketing in the field from a door-to-door standpoint. Hey, sir, how are you doing? Listen, I'm actually in the neighborhood. I've been canvassing the area, seeing if anyone's interested in upgrading their TV or internet service. It sounds okay, but that salesperson may not get the response that he's looking for using that pitch. Let me give you another one with a lot of Jones effect included. Hey, sir, how are you doing? My name is Marcel. I've actually been helping a lot of your neighbors in your neighborhood. A lot of your neighbors have actually been complaining to me about how high some of their TV internet prices have been getting. I'm sure you have TV and internet like a lot of your neighbors that I've already spoken to and helped. You see, that second pitch had a lot of Jones effect built into it. It actually had all of these components. But one of the big things you may have heard was that perception of success. See, in the first one, I don't really leave my customer feeling like I've been successful in the neighborhood, right? And if they feel like I haven't been successful, then they've got nothing for me. But if they feel like I've been successful and people have been listening to me and I've helped some people out, well, now they want to be a part of that same success. Perception of success. The next psychology of sales technique is customer empowerment. What does this mean? Well, let's use another example. I want you to put yourself in the mind and tell yourself right now that you're an FBI agent, right? And pretend that you're sitting in a room full of FBI field officers and I'm the lieutenant. And I come into the room, I rush into the room and I tell everybody, I say, listen, there's about to be a terrorist attack in New York, in our city. We've got to do something about this. Now keep in mind and bear in mind, yourself and everyone else in this room actually has a life, has made other plans, right? Before me rushing into the room and saying this to you, you perhaps may have had a birthday party to go to later. Maybe it's your anniversary. Maybe you've planned a vacation and you're actually shooting out to Vegas. No matter what it is, you have a life. So I want you to think about this for a second. Knowledge is power. Ignorance is bliss. See, now you have to change all of those plans because you've been empowered with information. And you have to act off of this information that you've been empowered with. See, it's not as such that I can come and give you this information and you can say, well, Lieutenant, I've got an anniversary tonight. I can't miss this. No, you've got to go take care of business. You've got to go do your job, right? We know that there's an attack that's threatening New York City possibly, but they don't know. They still have anniversaries, birthday parties, and trips that they've planned. And guess what? They're going to still do it. I want you to think about this. If every single person in the United States was empowered with how great the plethora of products that we offer is, they wouldn't need us. There would be no salespeople. Everyone would be empowered and everybody would have all of the products that we offer. Every day we get sales because we learn how to empower our customer. Taking a customer from the bliss category over into the knowledge is power category. Make sense? And how do we do that? Well, this comes down to maybe a little bit more than sales technique and more studying. This is why it's very, 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 very important that you take the next segment, because the next segment is going to talk about product knowledge and understanding the product knowledge. When you understand product knowledge, you can adequately educate your customer on that product. And when you can adequately educate your customer on that product, just like you being in the FBI feeling like you had no other choice but to handle business, they're going to feel like they have no other choice than to leave the provider they're with and come over to your team because they've been empowered. The next psychology of sales technique is the tie down and then the Sullivan nod. These two techniques are actually used in cohesion. And we're going to actually have a lot of fun with this one. This technique, we're going to use you as the example. See, if I can use you as the example, then you know it's going to work when you use it out there with your customer. So before I really get into this example, let me ask you a question. Doesn't it actually sound good to be a part of a business where you can literally work for yourself, write your own paycheck, and pay yourself whenever there's money in your back office account? Isn't that awesome to have that type of freedom, work when you want, don't have to really answer to anybody, right? Just maybe go online and do a couple of training courses a week just to kind of sharpen your skills? I mean, that sounds great, doesn't it? It does, right? Why are you shaking your head yes? Well, I'm going to tell you, the reason that you're shaking your head yes, and I want you to think about this for a second, because you don't shake your head yes every time you say yes. You're shaking your head yes because what I'm saying is making sense, and I'm shaking my head yes. See, when what I say makes sense and I'm shaking my head yes, then what happens? You start shaking your head yes. I want you to think about it like this. Think about it if you've ever been in a room full of people and someone yawned. Have you ever noticed that it kind of goes around a little bit? Or someone sneezes, and then someone else in the room sneezes a few seconds later? Well, it's the same way that the Sullivan knot and the tie down work. The main focus of the tie down is to make sure that you're asking a guaranteed yes question. See, I could have asked you, doesn't it sound good to be a part of a business where you're actually going to run into a customer and they're going to shut you down and you're not going to make any money off that customer? Oh, it's not the same thing. You're not shaking your head yes now. Why? Because the tie down didn't make sense. It wasn't a guaranteed yes question. So let's talk about a product, right? If my customer doesn't have a DVR service and my product is offering a DVR service, wouldn't you think it's a guaranteed yes question to say, wouldn't it be great to be able to record your programs and not have to run to the bathroom and run back because you don't want to miss the show? I mean, that would be great, wouldn't it? You see how that works? I've got a guaranteed yes question, and then on top of it, I'm shaking my head yes for my customer to shake their head yes. Because what happens? Saying yes and shaking your head yes are actually two different things. If you use the tie down and the Sullivan knot the right way, you're going to start to get what's called an emotional yes. And it's one thing to get a yes verbally. It's one thing to get a yes physically. But when you get an emotional yes, then now that person wants the product they want to buy. So how do we get that emotional yes? By shaking our head and getting our customer to agree with the things that we're saying about the product because they make sense. The more times we're able to influence our customer to agree with the fact that a product may work a certain way and that they'll like it and that it's going to be great for them and they're shaking their head yes and they're saying yes, then the more odds of me hitting one of my customers' hot buttons. See, when I hit a hot button, I don't have to sell the product anymore. That customer has found a component of that product that makes them need it. And when you need something, you get it. I want you to think about it like this. The best car salesmen, I'm going to tell you what they do. They let you test drive every car on the lot because they know that they're going to get an emotional yes, and it's just a numbers game. If you test drive 10 cars, it's a good chance that you might fall in love with one of those cars. And did you ever notice that they want you to test drive the car before they tell you the price of the car? Because if you knew the price of the car before you test drove the car, you might not even want to test drive the car. But if you test drive the car, right, and now they tell you the price, now you need that car because you like that car. And now you're going to find a way to make that payment. Make sense? Psychology of sales technique number 7, alternate choice close. And all this is you're giving a customer options that one of those options ends in your favor. See, there's two ways to ask for a sale. I can simply come out and say, well, sir, ma'am, so does it sound good? Do you guys want to sign up? But think about that. I'm leaving an option for my customer to say yes, and I'm leaving a door open for my customer to also say no. Wouldn't it possibly be better to say, well, all of this kind of sounds good, doesn't it? Okay, great. Well, I want you to really think about your schedule, right? Because we're going to have technicians out here next week. Really think about your schedule and tell me, per your schedule, which one do you think will actually work better for you? Would it be a weekday install or weekend for your free install, by the way? Which one, weekday or weekend? See, now you're giving your customer two options to where it just makes sense and both options kind of end in your favor. You don't care if they pick a weekday or weekend. Sometimes I'll say, so ma'am, are you putting it in your name, or sir, or is this going to go in your name? And they both point at the other person. And then we let them figure that out because at the end of the day, you got to sell. Psychology of sales technique number 8, hard close. The hard close is a little bit tricky. I actually recommend that your first 30 to 90 days that you use an alternate choice close, because an alternate choice close usually does it for you in most scenarios. But in some scenarios, you want to be able to use what's called a hard close. The way you use a hard close is to just simply ask for information that's going to lead you through the sales process. So again, instead of saying, "Sir, ma'am, are you guys ready to buy the product?" Again, they can say yes or no. It sounds like you guys are really agreeable with a lot of the product upgrade, so I'm sure this is going to work fine for you. Let me go ahead and get you guys' last name. And then you wait. The first person who speaks loses. See, I'm assuming that my customer is going to sign up. I've already asked for the last name. I already have my order form here ready to sign them up. And I'm asking for some information. So normally the hard close works best after an objection rebuttal, and we'll get to that here in a minute. All right, so the first thing we talked about was psychology of sales. And it's really good that you understand all of the different sales techniques and how to utilize them. But now we have to put them into a process, right? Now I want you to remember something. The wheel works just fine. It's been working great for thousands of years. Nobody ever made it square, right? So we're not going to reinvent the wheel. There is a sales process that we use like the wheel that works. So we want you to utilize this process. So now what we're going to do is, again, take these techniques, input them into a process that's proven to work. And that's the sales loop. All right. So sales loop consists of your intro, your short story, qualify, presentation, recap/trial close, and then your close. So I want you to think about something. What's the first thing a person wants to know when they meet you? First question that pops in their mind is, who are you? Well, that's your intro. Your name and the company that you're representing. So for instance, my name is Marcel, and I'm with AT&T. Okay? Your short story. Your short story is the next question that a person has in their head. And that question is, why are you here? What do you want? Right? So the short story answers that. Hi, again, intro. I'm Marcel with AT&T. The reason I'm here, I've been helping a lot of your neighbors. A lot of them have actually been complaining about how high TV and internet prices have been getting. Now, I'm sure you have TV and internet like a lot of the people out here that I've been talking to and helping, right? Great. That leads you into your qualifying. How many TVs do you have? And then you're looking down and taking notes. The qualification consists of the big 5 questions, which are, how many TVs do you have? Do any of your TVs have a HD or DVR box? Do you have TV, internet, and phone, or is it just TV and internet? Are there any movie channels that you have that you like, that you pay for? And the last question is, who is your service provider? See, now being able to ask those questions are going to better equip you to give a better presentation. See, without asking these qualifying questions, you're going to be doing what's called feature selling. And there's an old saying in sales, it says, features tell and benefits sell. So if I'm feature selling, let me use an example of that. What I'm doing is I'm rattling off features that the product has, like DVR service you're going to get. You're going to get 1080 HD. You're going to get a 72-hour rewind. You're even going to get the NFL Sunday ticket. And this all sounds great. But if I qualify my customer first, I can do what's called benefit sale. Remember, features tell, benefits sell. So I can benefit sell. See, now based on these questions, I know that this customer has 3 TVs, 1 HD DVR, TV and internet, maybe HBO. And who is your current service provider? See, now my conversation is going to be a little bit different than me just rattling off things that the product has. I'll be more specific. See, I'll say something like, well, customer, I see that you have 3 TVs, but you said that you only have 1 HD DVR. So that means that we're actually going to be able to provide an HD DVR to all of your TVs. I'll be able to say something like, okay, sir, I noticed that you have HBO. Well, the package that I'm going to give you that includes HBO actually comes with all the movie channels. So you'll actually be able to benefit from a plethora of movie channels and not just HBO. Sir, I've noticed that you have 3 HD TVs. So If you only have one DVR box, that means that that's the only box that's doing HD, because you need three things for HD to happen. You need the box to be HD, the wire to be HD, and the TV to be HD. And your TV and your wire is just HD. We're gonna get you 3 HD boxes, getting you what you paid for those beautiful HD TVs that you have. You see the difference between simply telling a feature and then selling a benefit? It makes a difference to the customer. After presentation, you've got your recap, trial, close. And if you've been paying attention to your customer, you're the person in front of them, seeing what they're getting excited about, watching their body language about the product that you're talking about, right? Then you'll know exactly what to recap on. See, I can benefit sell on a plethora of things that the product offers. But the great thing is, when I recap, I want to narrow those down to 2 or 3 hot buttons that I noticed my customer really loved. And I want to bring those back to the forefront before I move off into the closing part of the sale. But before the closing, a lot of salespeople make this common mistake. They close the sale too early. And I know you've heard things in sales like always be closing and things like this. Well, this is probably one of the big reasons why they say salespeople are pushy, that they feel pressured to buy something, right? Well, this is how we relieve that pressure, because we're going to absolutely close the sale, but we want to relieve the pressure of it first. And how do we do that? We do that with the trial close. So after my recap, bringing the most important things to them to the forefront of their mind, I'm going to trial close. I'm going to say, well, I'm sure everything sounds great, doesn't it? I'm going to say, do you have any questions about any of the product? Is there anything that you'd like me to go back over? And if they give you a good response to all of those, then now you know that the customer is ready to be closed. If it's not that smooth, the customer may say something like, well, you know what, I do have another question. Or, you know what, I realize my spouse may ask this question or think about this. See, you want to make sure that all of that is out of the way before you move to the close. Otherwise, it's going to feel like a pressured close. But if you've relieved all of those questions and things before you move on to your close, then you're going to notice that your close moves along a lot more smoothly.